Hello people, I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie, and today I'm going to review and rank the albums of Can, the German krautrock ultimate jam band of the 60s and 70s, and yeah, even an album in the 80s, which is not as bad as people generally say it is. How did we get here from Frank Zappa? I think the story goes that certain members of Can, at least maybe the guitar player, maybe some others, and other influential to-be German groups were in attendance in Berlin when Frank had a holiday in Berlin in '68. There was a student riot demonstration, but there was also a Frank Zappa and the Mothers concert. Apparently some of them saw Frank and the Mothers play either in Germany or in Europe when they were there in '68, and then that influenced them or inspire them in some part, especially the drumming techniques and patterns and sort of extended improvisations that Frank and the Mothers were doing. And so Can took that and pretty much did their own thing. Their sort of template, the thing that lies at the core of what they do is they go in the studio, they jam for hours, they take that material and they edit it into songs, into things that can be released on albums. Early on in their career, their first couple albums generally resembles more of song form. Then you get that awesome, beautiful middle period when every song almost sounds like you're just dropping right in the middle of a jam, and that there's probably 20 minutes that preceded it and 20 minutes that followed it that you probably wish you could hear, all edited together to make it sound cohesive. Then later on in their career, they got a little more Santana, Herb Alpert-esque, a little jam Latin flavor type stuff, but all pretty good stuff. I think all of it's fantastic. Even the stuff at the back of my list, the stuff that generally didn't get the best reviews at the time, I think it stood the test of time well. And I think there are a number of albums which might not be good Can albums, but if there were albums released by some random band, it would be like, this is some pretty good stuff. And it's some pretty good stuff. So yeah, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic band. So anyways, that's it. I'm going to do 13. I'm going to do Soundtracks, which was a bunch of soundtrack songs that was released early on, which is fantastic. I'm going to do Delay, which came out in the 80s, but is material from the 60s. I'm not going to do the other Unlimited Edition compilation album. I'm going to save that for other discussions further down the line. So I have 13 on here. Going to try to make it quick, but yeah, that's it. Great, 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 great band. Let's get to number 13. Number 13 is their 9th official studio album, Out of Reach. This came out in 1978. Generally one, I don't know if they've disavowed it, but their sort of bassist and producer and the cut and snip master, Holger Suzuki, is not on board for this one. You had a couple members of other bands step in. And this one, I don't think is as bad as people like claim it is. In fact, I think if this is one, if the name was not Can, but was something else, people would enjoy this more than they do. It's kind of a very Latin rock, light Santana meets Herb Alpert type vibe. That kind of loose, jammy type stuff. Some interesting stuff on here, then stuff that's kind of not that good. Opens up with Serpentine, which is sort of a very hazy Latin feel type jam. A lot of percussion, kind of a percussive heavy instrumental. Pauper's Daughter and I is kind of their take on a really weird 70s pop song. The vocals are done by the two members who step in, who are like from other bands. Roscoe G, he wrote this song and he's the one who does vocals on this. And then the other guy, Rebop Kwaku does vocals on another song later on. They're okay. The bass and the guitar on here makes it work, but it's just kind of a weird song that maybe doesn't work. November is probably the highlight on this album. Really nice, kind of dramatic feel. It's got a Latin percussion, groovy vibe. Really nice guitar solo. Just got a really good jam on it. Really good vibe. 7 Days Awake is okay. Has some good squealing guitar on there. The one thing that really doesn't work is Give Me No Roses, another G song. Kind of sounds like a Doobie Brothers track, like a deep cut, but not that good of a deep cut Doobie Brothers song, but not a Michael McDonald's Doobie Brothers song like one of the other members. So that's where we are with that. Like Inobe God is a really loose disco vibe to it. It sounds like somebody was listening to some Marvin Gaye, like some What's Going On or Mercy Mercy, and they didn't remember they remember vaguely what the song sounded like and wanted to recreate it. And so you get this weird version. It has that kind of a weird light Marvin Gaye vibe that maybe kind of works a little. And then One More Day is this neat little spacey thing to close it out. Some of it's just I don't think any of it's horrible. Kind of entertaining, and I think if it wasn't Can, it would generally be regarded slightly higher. But that's number 13, Out of Reach. Number 12 is Right Time, their 11th and final studio album. The band is back together for this one, and including Malcolm Mooney back on vocals, their original lead vocalist. This came out in October 1989. It was recorded in 86, and they spent years tinkering it and editing it together. And other than the production, which is 80s, and the fact that the drumming is pretty much the most almost robotic, like all of the drum magic and energy is almost not completely gone, but it's definitely not the same drum energy as almost all of the earlier stuff. It's not that bad of an album. There are some horrible things on here. Hula Hula is pretty bad. It's like if they were covering a Mr. Bungle circus song. I just think Hula Hula just doesn't work for me. Mooney is at times an acquired taste, more so than on the earlier albums, just because Mooney's energy and chaos and lack of I'm not going to say he's unprofessional, but there's definitely a lack of polish, kind of clashes, and at times a great way and at times a weird way with the sort of 80s production, somewhat sterileness of it. But there's some interesting things on here. I think the opening song on The Beautiful Side of a Romance is sort of a great sort of art rock type song, some nice, like a new wave jam band. The With Outlaw Man, it's kind of like Talking Heads meets Wall of Voodoo with some really cool guitar in it. Below This Level has a playful energy and kind of sounds like Ween, but like a higher concept Ween, or maybe Ween with a bigger budget in the 80s. The same era Ween, but just with a bigger budget. Yeah, Moving Right Along, kind of works. Some weird electric pop, Like a New Child, very hypnotic, very jammy, kind of slower, more ballady, probably the highlight on this album. Kind of needed. It sits right there in the middle. It just works perfectly. Hula Hula follows, which is horrible. I just don't like it. Give the Drummer Some has some good kind of percussive energy, kind of just goes on a little bit too long, a low key groove that just doesn't go places, but it's still a pretty interesting vibe and kind of sits really well at the back of the album. And then In the Distance Lies a Future is a cool little rock number with a cool little this little low key 80s jam and this little hook that appears every so often. Overall, the album is a little too stilted, a little too 80s, but I think there are some interesting ideas in here, and I think the contrast between Can's energy, Mooney's whatever it is Mooney does, and sort of the sterile electronic 80s vibe, I think it all kind of works in a weird way. So not a horrible album, kind of enjoyable, and every time I listen to it, every year or so, I like it a little bit more. Yeah, my number 12, Right Time. Number 11 is Flow Motion, their 7th. This came out in 1976. My big problem with this is I think the first 3 tracks are the weakest, and so wanting to listen to this, it's hard to get going. I Want More is kind of a just typical art rock vibe, just not as good as something like other art rock people are doing, like Bowie. And then both Cascade Waltz and Laugh Till You Cry, Live Till You Die have this kind of reggae energy about them that I'm not really down with. And Laugh Till You Cry, Live Till You Die goes on too long and kind of reminds me of Fish's Makasupa Policeman, but a bad version of Makasupa Policeman. It just doesn't get me. So the first, we're talking that's like 15 minutes. I think it's kind of rough going. But then we kind of hit a groove and things get better. And More has some nice dance rock energy, kind of instrumental, good stuff, lots of percussion. Babylonian Pearl is some really nice, tight, funky pop. It's probably the best thing on the album so far. Smoke, EFS number 59 is just awesome. Kind of a late night drum circle with ambient noises coming in, but like late night, like, I don't know if you ever camped after a Dead show or around a Dead show, and you'd wake up at 3 in the morning and realize there was a drum circle setting up like 2 cars down. It's one of those low key, I can sleep through it type drum circle type things, and still has some good energy, but it's not too chaotic. And then the closing Flow Motion, which clocks in at 10 minutes, just this nice steady groove guitar, just kind of playing all over the place, kind of flirting with reggae, but not committing, so it's not as bad. Nice epic jam right in the middle of it. Just a nice, good Flow Motion. It's a great title for that song. We need more of this type of energy on the album. Just starts off weak, finishes strong, a little inconsistent, but the stuff at the end, pretty much the second half of the album, it's all really, really good stuff. But yeah, good for 76 Can. But yeah, that would be my number number 11? My number 11, Flow Motion. My number 10 is their 8th, came out in 1977, Saw Delight. Full band is there, but the 2 members who would be on that other album I talked about are also here because Suzuki has stopped playing bass and is now just doing sound effects. And a pretty enjoyable album. This is another one where I think if it wasn't Can and it was like a Santana side project, it would be pretty good. We're getting some very like disco-y Latin vibes, very danceable grooves, but they're not bad danceable grooves. The highlight is probably the 15-minute Animal Waves, which kicks off side 2, which is like kind of all over the place. You get a little bit of Middle Eastern vibe, you get some disco vibe, you get some really good looser percussion, heavy Latin vibe. You're kind of all over the map in your 15 minutes. Nice, slower, kind of spacier, ominous opening. And you get some violin playing on here. Caroli, the guitar player, is playing violin quite a bit. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, it's just a straight up jam. Animal Waves, I think, is by far the highlight of this. And everything that surrounds it is either some lighter form of like Latin disco type thing. Don't Say No, the opening number, is kind of just electronic disco dance funk. Sunshine Day and Night kind of reminds me of something you would maybe hear on Talking Heads Naked, just not as chaotic and maybe not as good. A little bit lighter maybe. Call Me, nice bass driven energy, some good Baloo type noise from the guitar. Some nice tight disco hi-hat action. I wrote that down. So yeah, that's pretty good. Closes out with Fly By Night, not the Rush song. Syrupy 70s type number. It would have been better if it was just them covering the Rush song. That would be interesting. Not a bad album. I mean, there's some really good stuff on here, some good grooves. Animal Waves right in the middle kind of justifies the entire listening experience. But yeah, pretty solid. I would say, yeah, my number 10, Saw Delight. My number 9 is Can, now known as Inner Space. Came out in 79. This is their 10th. Suzuki, the former bassist, is not even playing noises. He's just editing this one. And this is kind of the opposite of what Saw Delight, where this, no, not Saw Delight. Flow Motion, where this one, the first half is really great, and then the second half at times kind of falls off a cliff. But the first half, just really good jamming energy, lots of good grooves, lots of good just percussion. The opening track, what do we got? We got some harmonica playing on here. Don't know who's playing harmonica, but a nice bluesy flavor. Really nice groove on All Gates Open. Safe has this really almost post-punky, quirky synthy sound to it. A little bit of jazz, some weirdness, a loose jammy vibe. Sunday Jam, Latin dance, sort of Santana flavor, nice instrumental. Sodom has a really nice kind of spooky, low-key, ominous, slow vibe about it. Really like that. A Spectacle, a really nice funky jam. We get some wah in there, some nice rhythm, give the drummer some, cool harmonica. Yeah, all around. A Spectacle is kind of just all over the place, really cool and really nice. But then we get to EFS number 99, the Can. And yeah, it's only 3 minutes long, but it's not good. It's like an interpolation of the Can dance. Sort of Disney Main Street Electrical Parade meets Christmas as played on like a, no, it's just bad. It's not very good. And then we get this weird ping pong thing that's like 23 seconds of randomness. And then we get Can B, C-A-N-B-E, which is like the second part of the Can, which would be Can A. And it's a continuation of that monstrosity. No. Last 3 songs, the last 6 minutes of this, 6.5 minutes, just forget about. But everything in front of that is really good. And I really enjoy it. And I like the energy. I like the vibes. I like the grooves. So yeah, you just got to stop it when you get to the Can. Can is a no-no. But should have penalized this and ranked it lower because of the Can. But I didn't, because I liked those first 5 tracks. And the Spectacle is really good. So is Sodom. Yeah, some good stuff on here. Just not the Can part. But yeah, that's my number 9. That's my number 9. My number 8 is Landed, their 6th official studio album, released in 1975. Yeah, this is just pretty solid, start to finish, 6 tracks. The third one, Hunters and Collectors, a little repetitive. It's the only one that kind of like, I don't know, doesn't really grab me, but everything else is really good. Full Moon on the Highway opens up with what could be their version of like straight up psych rock, like Jefferson Airplane energy almost. Just really nice opening lead track. 1:30, kind of a stranger, lots of weird sort of international flavors seeping through, a little more of a weirder experimental thing. You get the Hunters and Collectors, which is kind of like some funk pop rock Can style. And then you get the almost 9-minute Vernal Equinox, which is just a straight up driving guitar shredding jam. Get a nice little percussion break in the middle, and then we go back into the guitar shredding at the end. Really nice jam journey for 9 minutes, kind of cover a lot of little guitar, rock, percussion bases. Side 2 has Red Hot Indians, which is sort of an acoustic Talking Heads sort of dancey type energy. Nice crazy saxophone battle goes on at the end. Who's dropping the sax on here? Olaf Kubler dropping some tenor sax, nice at the end. And then the over 13-minute unfinished closes out. And this is a very nice, floaty, spacey, atmospheric-y thing. We get some aggressive noises that sort of enter in the middle, but the overall like sort of moodiness and like spaciness always kind of wins out and takes over whatever's entering. Feels like there's like hints of drama throughout, but you don't ever get this resolved feeling. It feels unfinished, but it's a great way to end a pretty aggressive kind of psyche, hard rocking, at times really weird, solid Can album. Yeah, I mean, it's number 9, right? Number 9, but that's because number 8, it's because there's a lot of really good Can stuff. But yeah, my number 8, Landed. Number 7 is Soundtracks, which is not an official studio album. It's a compilation album of stuff they did for Soundtracks. Came out in 70. It's got both stuff from Malcolm Mooney, their original vocalist, and stuff from Damo Suzuki, their second vocalist. And it just works. There's a cohesion to it, even though it's all from different soundtracks. Side A, you have the song Deadlock appears as Deadlock, and then opening track, and then the third track, Deadlock, title music. These both have somewhat of a cinematic quality for them. You can kind of hear that they would be played in a movie, but it works. Some good dramatic guitar energy in both of them. Very just a dramatic sort of Can rock. And then right between them, from the same movie Deadlock, is something called Tango Whiskey Man, which sound really catchy, almost got like a cool hook. Seems like it could be on Ige Bamyasi. Almost sounds like it's a really close cousin to Vitamin C, or even One More Saturday Night, One More Night. Just got really just good hooky pop energy, and it's actually a really, really good song. Sorry. And then what else do we have? And then we close out side A. After that, we have Don't Turn the Light On, Leave Me Alone, which is kind of a Suzuki Fast. Damo's kind of going off of here. Loose jammy number. Very good rhythmic guitar ideas throughout here. And then Soul Desert closes out. And Soul Desert is a really nice heavy groove. At times, sort of the way it goes kind of reminds me of sort of a Neil Young Drunken for the Turnstiles type thing, but maybe a little bit heavier. Kind of has a Primus stomp at times, kind of a lot of different flavors in Soul Desert. Then you get the highlight, the heart, the thing you almost have to hear. You get Mother Sky, this 14.5-minute jam that's just absolutely amazing. The bass is amazing. The ending is amazing. A lot of sort of the psych rock that they're flirting with. You can kind of hear the roots of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard right here. That sort of just that kind of jammy, driven energy I think you hear in this, like absolutely fantastic. And then, and this is a Mooney song. And then the closing track, another Mooning song. No, this is not a Mooning song. Soul Desert is a Mooning song. And then She Brings the Rain is another Mooning song. And the She Brings the Rain is like a smooth talking nightclub type, talk your way type through. Awesome jazz lounge number to close out the album. Yeah, really cohesive. Like you got 5 somewhat short songs that kind of bring different energy. A monster jam that's like almost 14, 15 minutes. And then this nice jazzy thing to close out. You get some Damo, you get some Malcolm. Just really, really good stuff. Don't overlook this album. It's a good listen. My number 6 or my number 7? My number 7, Soundtracks. Number 6 is their debut album, Monster Movie. This came out in 1969. 4 songs, 3 on side A, 1 on side B. The one on side B is a monster 20-minute jam. Opens up with Father Cannot Yell. Nice, lots of feedback, long drawn-out notes from Caroli, the guitar player. Really good kind of frantic energy. Mary, Mary, So Contrary kind of brings it down a little bit more. We get a little bit more of a slower vibe. Contrasts really nicely with Father. Kind of a psych ballad vibe that you can kind of see the roots for some of their slower stuff for the next couple albums. Really nice, awesome ending instrumental section. Outside My Door is the most traditional rock thing on here. Sounds like something, every time I hear this, it reminds me of, I'm almost like, I think it's like Aerosmith's Back in the Saddle again, Back in the Saddle, like that song, but a different Can version of that in years earlier. But there's a little bit of that kind of building energy. And then side B, the last song, You Do Right, is just an awesome 20-minute jam. Give the drummer some. It's got a hypnotic groove. First 8.5 minutes, we just roll hard with the jam, kind of drop into this low-key, vocally heavy part in the middle. Then we build back up the energy into this awesome groove to finish it out. Just like fantastic, 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 fantastic stuff. It's number 6 because there's 5 other fantastic albums that this band put out. But this is some really good stuff. Mooney, the vocalist, he's just a wild force of energy, man. He is just, his voice is an instrument in and of itself. The energy is chaotic. He's maybe an acquired taste, but really there was nothing like him. As awesome as Suzuki was, Mooney was that, but not in any sort of box whatsoever. Just incredible, incredible energy. But yeah, really, really, really good album. My number 6, Monster Movie. Number 5 is their 5th, Soon Over Babaluma. This came out in 1974. Yeah, this is fantastic, fantastic stuff. 5 songs on here. They're all really well fun and jammed out, just awesome. Opens up with Dizzy Dizzy, which has this really nice sort of violin energy going through it, just very almost like hypnotic dancing type, really, really cool vibe. Come Sta La Luna has a really kind of dramatic, big vocal presence, nice guitar all over the place, kind of slight Latin flavors are coming in there, but it contrasts nicely to sort of the kind of slight franticness of Dizzy Dizzy. And then Splash is just this really awesome upbeat Santana jam vibe. There's some saxophone, really good guitar solos, waves of synths, this awesome vamp, just really, it's almost like the vamp is like this really sort of hyper frenetic version of like 21 or 13, the Zappa, for the Zappa songs, the Zappa Vamps. Really good, solid, fun, consistent first side. Second side is 2 songs. The 11-minute Chain Reaction, which starts off kind of like, you get this really kind of synthy wave, and then this really neat electronic percussion gets in, and you're building up towards this like groove, and you're getting almost like teases of this groove. And this is kind of just going for a while, and then right around the 3-4 minute mark, this groove just drops and this beat just drops. The song just kind of goes to the next level, just kind of running on pure energy. Get some crazy percussion that returns. You're just kind of all over the place. Some scary noises come in about halfway through. Some slower guitar drum grooves come in the middle. We drop back into that main groove at the end. Just, yeah, it's just really just Chain Reaction. It's absolutely fantastic. It's just some of their greatest grooves, some of their greatest sort of atmospheric pieces. The energy is fantastic. And then that goes into Quantum Physics, which is tapping into that ambient vibe that they did on the previous album, which is yet to make this list. There are moments of like energy and percussion that seem to want to break through and take this to the next level, but they never happen. Might have been an editing thing where we're like, we're not going to let that happen. We're just going to go back to the ambient pieces. Total Space threatens to happen a couple times, but it manages to stay back together. Really, really awesome sort of soundscape vibe. But a really neat way to close the album. Like I would think with a lot of bands, you drop that weird spacey stuff first and then end with something like Chain Reaction. But this is like the second time they did it with Untitled, Unfinished, from Landed, where they end on the more weirder, spacier stuff. And I think it really works with this band. But yeah, Quantum Physics, fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. But yeah, this album is really, really good. Yeah, my number 5, Soon Over Babaluma. My number 4 is their fourth, and this is Future Days. This is their ambient album. It's not pure ambient, but it's definitely more of an atmospheric, spacey sort of let's set up a cool vibe type thing, and it works 100%. It is absolutely amazing. Future Days opens it up, just slowly emerges. Takes like a minute and a half before we get like, okay, this is where we are. It's a song, really low key, late night, campfire, subdued, just kind of like you're jamming out, but you're not jamming out too heavy because you don't want to wake anybody else around you. Nobody's in a hurry to do anything. Suzuki's vocals are all kind of muted and mysterious. Yeah, just really, really awesome. Kind of sounds like early Stereolab. Just really, really cool. Then we get Spray. Spray, another low-key, atmospheric, moody jam. Maybe a little jazzier, funkier, slightly weirder, synthier. But it's still, we slip into like low-key, psyche, beautiful, proggy stuff after a while. We don't get our first vocals until about 6 minutes into it. Kind of a little more all over the place, building prog energy than Future Days, but still kind of keeping it low-key. And then we get Moonshake, which is kind of upbeat, the pop rock song on this side, a fun little number, some nice quirky noises throughout it. And then side B is Bel Air, one song, 20 minutes long. We got some early sort of 70s synth. Definitely doesn't sound like any particular song, but like a 10cc or Alan Parsons or that type of synthy kind of vibe in a while, but in a can sense. We get some nice hypnotic grooves, low-key mesmerizing stuff on here. We switch gears about 4.5 minutes into it, into like the next sort of jam. We get a nice sort of more typically propulsive can groove at that point that goes for a while. We drop into some complete ambient space around the 9-minute mark. And then that gives us a nice build up for like the last half of the song into this gorgeous, beautiful, steady, patient can groove. Yeah. This is their late night album. This is their chill album. It's still entrancing. It's still got so much to offer and intrigue you, but it's definitely of a slightly different, more subdued vibe than everything else. Future Days, just solid from start to finish. Fantastic, fantastic. My number 4. My number 3 is Delay 1968, which came out in 81. It's a compilation album of material that was originally recorded for their debut album that never got released. And this is ridiculous don't overlook the fantasticness of this album. It's great. It's all Mooney stuff, so you get more Mooney. Mooney takes what at times sound like San Francisco's 60s psych rock, and as soon as Mooney enters the scene, you're like, okay, this is obviously Can, and this is like nobody else. Opens up with Butterfly. If the Butterfly were some weird, dark, twisted garbage. Remember the Garbage Patch Kids? Is that what they're called? The Garbage Pail Kids, Cabbage Patch Kids. It's almost like if the Garbage Pail Kids turned into butterflies, or Mr. Bungle took a lot of really brown acid and tried to create a butterfly. It's Dark Crystal. If the Dark Crystal movie had a huge butterfly in it, it's nightmarish in the best way possible. It is such an awesome opening track. It is just free form focused jam madness is what I put. Exhilarating, haunting, an incredible 8-minute opener. Pnoom is a little jazzy snippet, 28 seconds long. 19th Century Man, could be psych rock. This is the one that sounds like it could be straight out of 60s San Francisco. Then Mooney enters the scene. You're like, okay, this is obviously Can. Thief has this almost like cautious quality about it. Like, hey, shh, don't let anybody know I'm here. I'm a thief. Kind of cool. Nice hypnotic groove. Really good Mooney performance. He's on top of his game here. Fantastic stuff. Great song. Man Named Joe. It sounds also another one that sounds like 60s, but maybe earlier 60s. Then Mooney enters, and you're like, okay, this is Can. Uphill sounds like they're racing uphill the entire time, but never get tired. Like they're giving it their all to like climb this hill. There is this frantic energy, this driving energy, this propulsive energy about it. A perfectly titled song. And then the final song, Little Star of Bethlehem, is Mooney at his best. He's telling this tale that sounds like a twisted version of Wind in the Willows. You got a frog and a toad and weird stuff that he keeps repeating about Frog and the Toad. And yeah, it's got like a Neil Young slow rocker vibe, but it's just crazy. Mooney is there. I'm not calling him crazy, sorry. But Mooney's there just adding elements of just like awesome 60s weirdness. A fantastic album. Highly recommend. Don't sleep on this. My number 3, Delay 1968. Number 2 is Ige Bamiasi. Such a perfect album that Stephen Malcolmus covered it live in Germany and then released it for a record store day. Check that out. If you're interested in Malcolmus or Pavement. This is their 3rd official studio album. Came out in 72. It's just a perfect album. It's perfectly sequenced. Everything about it is perfect. Opens up with Pinch, which is just like this awesome, crazy jam. It sounds like we're dropping in right in the middle of the jam, like things have been going on before it, things will go after it. Really sort of crazy energy. Then we go into Sing Swan Song, which is kind of like their version of something like Crazy Fingers, kind of a psych ballad that just kind of seemed to be like spiraling and churning over itself as it slowly develops. And then that goes into One More Night, which is just this awesome hook and groove and just like a perfect 3-song side A. Side B opens up with Vitamin C, which has been called by, I think I've read this phrase in more reviews than any other single thing, is that this is the best European funk ever, Vitamin C. I knew a toddler once. We would play Can around this kid, and 2 things he hooked onto. Vitamin C. He would walk around the house going, hey, you need some vitamin C? And he'd say it like that. And then he would also walk around going, waiting for the streetcar, a song off their one of their box sets that came out a couple years ago. But yeah, Vitamin C, instant, just an incredible groove, incredible classic. Soup is the long, jammy, awesome, kind of all over the place song on here. Kind of starts like really kind of all over the map, and then the beat drops and we get some crazy energy for it. That's the like going out there on a limb song on an album that for the most part is pretty reined in. Even the opening Pinch kind of feels a little more reined in than Soup. I'm So Green has some really nice, happy, upbeat energy. And then the closing Spoon is just this awesome, tight another little sort of Can type pop funk German number. Yeah, 40 minutes of the best music ever. It's a perfect album. The problem with Can is they've released at least 2 perfect albums. Still, Delay might be perfect, even though it's like compilation. Even Future Days, that might be a perfect album. But yeah, this is one of their perfect albums. For me, it's my second favorite, because now we're on to number 1. And my number 1 is Tago Mago. Tago Mago? Tago Mago? Their second album, a double album, came out in 1971. It's also perfect. It's a perfect double album. Opens up with Paper House, which is kind of like controlled chaos with little glimpses into what chaos actually looks like in the middle of it. This is another one that sounds like we dropped right in the middle of a jam. Kind of just like really tense, high energy that never really resolves, and you're kind of looking for that resolution. But then it goes right into Mushroom, which is just tense and just talking about your mushroom head, and it ends with a huge nuclear bomb explosion. I'm assuming it's a nuclear bomb explosion, which makes it about wondering what the whole song is about. But other really just tense energy. Flaming Lips did a cover of this, and they remembered the song and decided to do their version of it and they became Take Me to Mars, but they didn't remember the lyrics or anything like that. So that's their weird take on Mushroom. Fantastic, just great song. And then that follows with Oh Yeah, which is a little more like steady, kind of comforting after the tension and all the tenseness that came before it. You got some backward masked lyrics to make it a little more surreal, but it does have a more of a comforting rock vibe. Side 2, the 4th song, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Halleluhwa. Yeah, just an awesome groove, an awesome jam, 18 minutes of pure awesome improvisation. The original jam band right here. It is fantastic. It is the perfect sort of complement to the 3 songs on side A, the tension and the rock, and then you just get this. Side 3 is another really long song, the near 18-minute Om, which is apparently a musical play on and lyrical play on the idea of the Om thing from when you meditate. And it's just, yeah, it is just space. It's their version of space with this sort of chaotic, spacey ending at the end. It's just 18 minutes of them exploring space and kind of all over the place. It is so engaging and so enthralling, and it is, if you're listening to this album in order, it is the perfect complement to the dose of Hallelujah jamminess, grooviness. The final side opens up with Peking O, which is more of a sort of like Mr. Bungle-esque type space exploration, the sort of circusy Mr. Bungle, where like Mr. Bungle is maybe trying to out Mr. Bungle. That's what Peking O is. It's just kind of that kind of weirdness. And then the whole thing closes out with Bring Me Coffee or Tea. It's kind of cohesive, kind of slowly intensifies as it goes on. It's trying to exert calm and control, but in the end, it just can't, because this entire album has been about tension and not ever releasing that tension. So finally, at the end of this, when we're trying to maybe end on like more of a peaceful note, we can't. And we finally have to exercise all our demons on the very last track in the perfect way possible. It is a perfect, like 72, 75-minute journey. Just absolutely fantastic. Wonderful, must hear. One of the greatest albums ever, along with like a couple others on this list. But that's my number 1. Tago Mago, Tago Mago, Tajo Majo. Tago Mago. I don't know. Tago Mago, my number 1. That is what they look like in writing. 13 albums, all of them have something to offer. Even those ones on the back, don't sleep on those. But really, that top 5 list right there, man, those are all almost perfect. Even top 6, that's really good. Even really good. It's a good band, man. It's a good band. I'm going to drop a songs video in a couple of days. I'm going to start tackling their live stuff, because their live stuff is ridiculous. But anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know your list. Let me know what I messed up on. Let me know what I'm wrong about. You know all that stuff. You know how comments work. People, do your comment thing. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and most importantly, go listen to Can, man. Go listen to Can. One of the greatest bands ever, hands down. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.